really is a mess in general, like just from everything up to now being in the bye week. This is probably the worst position you could be in the bye week, even though you're sitting at 4-1. It just feels like from a fan base perspective, a media perspective, all of it, it's wild. But I want to get your thoughts, just overarching, coming out of Oxford on Saturday.
Yeah, man, I think first things first, your defense is getting a little bit of flack, not too much, and rightfully so. They shouldn't. To keep that team to 7 points in the second half is an impressive feat for me. I mean, it's a Lane Kiffin-led offense that wreaks havoc every time they touch the field. So to hold Trinidad Chambliss and that offense to 7 points in the second half, that's a win. So if we're looking at kind of those moral victories, which I know a lot of us aren't in favor of, but if we're looking for one, to hold that team to 7 points, that's a win for me. And then you flip the script to the offense, and it's been a challenge, Noah. I mean, you look at what this team has put together, the product that they've put together, it's been rough. I mean, you're bottom tier in just about every category. And one that really sticks out to me is the tackles for loss allowed. 26 tackles for loss allowed on the year, put you in the bottom tier of college football. This offensive line has struggled, and we saw that in Oxford. I mean, you're going up against a three-man rush, and there's still pressure on Garrett Nussmeier, and there's just the ability to wreak havoc on him. The three-man rush is abysmal. So for me, I'm not quite sure of the buttons that you try to press from here and try to get this thing steered in the right direction. Clearly, it starts with Garrett Nussmeier's health. There's something that's hampering him. It's not rocket science. So going into the bye week and then into South Carolina prep, it's about getting Garrett Nussmeier on the right track, trying to see what type of continuity you can develop on the O-line and see what type of rushing attack you can develop, because it's been pathetic in that area. So I hate to say that, but it's just been a struggle right there. So it's going to take some time, but this team doesn't have time. They have 1 week during the open date to get this thing in the right direction, and we'll see what type of product they can put on the field on October 11th.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree, and obviously we're going to get into the quarterback stuff as we continue to talk, but I want to highlight the rushing attack first off. Obviously, it's been bad, but I think my biggest indictment on Saturday is the fact that you didn't even try. You know, like in the first half, 2 handoffs to running back, so you had one for -1 to Jawan, and then and that was in the red zone, I believe, and then you got a draw play on 3rd and 20 to Caleb Jackson for 10 yards. So it's not just the fact that you can't really do it. It's like they just decided, you know what, going into this game against the 122nd ranked rushing defense and 3 down linemen, we're not even going to try to hand it off.
Yeah, I mean, you're right on the money. You're going up against a team that's given up 190 rushing yards a game. I mean, the numbers jump off the page there. And again, you nailed it, where they didn't really try too much from an effort standpoint there. And then you give Jawan Johnson a delayed handoff on a 2-point conversion, which to me is one of the, I guess, it just speaks volumes to what this team's doing right now offensively. I mean, that's the one that just sticks out like a sore thumb. So right on the money. They didn't really try enough. I know when you look at the box score, it's 22 carries for 57 yards. You take out the Barry and Brown and Xavion Thomas rushing attempts, and you're barely averaging 2 yards per carry. So there's no push in the trenches. There's not too much from an effort perspective there on Saturday in Oxford. And I know that you're without Caden Durham, but he hasn't necessarily been living up to the billing this season either. So you nailed it. The rushing attack has been hard to watch. It's hard to trust what this offensive line is doing so far, and you got a couple of days to try to get right. I'm not sure how quickly they can get right. I did love what I saw from Carius Kern on Saturday in Oxford in his first start for LSU. Maybe that's your answer at right tackle, but nonetheless, you got to continue to try to pick up these broken pieces and put together a solid product.
And to get into the conversation on the quarterback, I mean, what are you seeing? Because to me, when I'm looking at him, like it's polar opposite. Like just going from what was it, Florida to Southeastern to now, it's been kind of this roller coaster of it was bad versus Florida, looked unhealthy. They say he's on the other side of it. It rises up on the roller coaster against Southeastern. He looks comfortable. He had some zip on the ball. And then against Ole Miss, maybe the worst game of his LSU career. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing at the quarterback position? I know obviously there's indictments on decision-making and this, that, and the other, but Well, you expect your quarterback to be able to make the layups down the field when Chris Hilton's running 7 yards away from defender into the end zone. Those are the ones you just have to make.
Right. It's been a challenge, Noah, just watching tape from last year. I mean, the zip that he has on the ball. Garrett Nussmeier, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Garrett Nussmeier. I think that he is an excellent quarterback. Sure, decision-making, it is what it is. When you're a gunslinger, and I know he doesn't like that term, but my goodness, you're a gunslinger. When you have a guy like that, there are going to be some turnovers here and there, and that's fun. But when you can make those big-time throws like he's proven in the past, it makes up for issues like that. Mm-hmm. Now, moving into 2025, pushing away the tape from 2024, it's been looking at a guy who has no confidence, has an injury, and is not trusting his offensive line. You look at the throwing motion that he has and the mechanics from 2024 to 2025, it's a completely different quarterback. So whatever he's dealing with, whether it's the knee tendonitis, the torso injury, whatever it is clearly on full display to where we're not getting that full dose of Garrett Nussmeier that we want. Missing that layup with Chris Hilton down the right side of the field on Saturday, to me, that's the cherry on top. That's where you got to sit back and say, okay, something's wrong, and we need to fix it immediately. And if that fix is letting Michael Van Buren get a little bit of run, you have to do it, because despite playing horrible football on Saturday at Vaught Hemingway Stadium, you're still in position to win the game. It's a one-score game, and you still have an opportunity to try to win this thing. But nonetheless, you can't get over the hump. It starts with Garrett Nussmeier. He's the quarterback. He's going to be the one who takes a lot of the kind of the media hits here and there. It's what you sign up for when you're the quarterback at LSU. To get to your question, though, man, we're seeing a quarterback that just doesn't have confidence right now, and he's clearly dealing with something that needs to be addressed, or else it's going to be a really long season in Baton Rouge.
How would you categorize how this entire situation has been handled?
Yeah, I think that's a broad question, right? You look at this one where Brian Kelly, we're sitting there post-game in Oxford, and he says his quarterback is healthy, and he just needs to play better. And then 5-10 minutes later, we get Garrett Nussmeier outside, and he's telling us, I'm not answering any questions about my health right now. And it's twofold. Brian Kelly's obviously going to say that his quarterback is in a good spot just based off of trust. You want to make sure that you're staying in good standing with your quarterback. But if you're Garrett Nussmeier and Brian Kelly, you have to be on the same page to where you're both saying the same thing so that it doesn't look contradictory. I think for me, it could have definitely been handled a little bit better, but they might know things and they're more media trained maybe than I am. And this is my job. So maybe they're playing the long game here. I'm not sure. Lloyd, it's one that is definitely drawing significant concern because you're paying these guys money now. Like, this is where, and I saw Mikey and Mike up on social media was saying, you're basically pros now, but you have to handle things like a pro and answer those tough questions. And we haven't quite seen him answer that question yet when it comes to his health. He definitely has been brushing it off a lot ever since Brian Kelly came out and mentioned that torso injury.
And another part of it, and I think this spoke volumes if you saw it on the TV copy, where it's Brian Kelly looks to Garrett Nussmeier on a 4th and 1 where they have to call a timeout, and he's looking at the booth going, I haven't gotten a play call. Then you see the headset come down. It just feels like from an offensive perspective, and Brian Kelly being an offensive guy, Joe Sloan being in year 2 with Garrett Nussmeier, and Garrett Nussmeier being in year two with Joe Sloan, feels like none of them are on the same page.
Agreed. Completely. It just seems like from top to bottom, it's kind of an organizational, and I'm not going to say failure by any means, because it's just not fair to say that. Right. I can't diminish that win on the road at Clemson quite yet. I know that their record isn't great. It's not great by any means, but to go on the road in their little Death Valley Junior that everybody likes to call it, Brian Kelly, to go on the road and get that win is big time for me. So I can't call it an organizational failure just yet. But there's definitely some things here that are uncharacteristic when it comes to just not being on the same page. You're right on the money. It's definitely been a struggle. But I do think at the same time, I can't sit here and me personally be completely pessimistic about this team just because everything that you want is still right in front of you. And I know that it's unattainable looking right now coming off that loss in Oxford. But at the same time, you have a nice win over Clemson. I know their record might not show it. Florida, it's an SEC win against your rival. I know their record hasn't necessarily been great. You went and handled business against Southeastern. Again, you were underdogs going into Oxford. You haven't won there in a really, really long time. I believe they've lost 3 straight games in Oxford now. So this isn't a game that you were supposed to lose and you had the chance to win it, but it's certainly one that wasn't a gimme by any means. So to go out there and lose by 5 to Lane Kiffin and company, it's not a moral victory, but at the same time, I can't sit here and write off this team yet.
And what I'll ask you, because you bring up Van Buren earlier when we were talking about the layups, and because to me that's, if you're putting Nussmeier out there, those are the things he has to be able to do. Like if you're playing him, even when he's healthy, he doesn't show a willingness to run, so he has to be able to make the throws, and not even the special ones, just the ones that are there to be made. And I want to ask you, because I feel like the fan base and even the chat this morning, this past Saturday was their turning point of, you know what, it's time to make a change, and obviously something needs to change, and I think you saw the fan base kind of agree almost unanimously, which very rarely happens, that it's just time to do something else, because if he's hurt, and that's what it looks like it is, there's no benefit for anybody in him playing, and what to you would it take to see Van Buren get the shot and to make the change at quarterback?
It's the $1 million question. And I mean,
they should have never played him against Southeastern.
Playing Garrett Nussmeier against Southeastern, for me, yes, it built confidence. I mean, he was flawless, man. He was 25 for 31. 5 of those incompletions were drops. I mean, he was near flawless. So from a confidence perspective, that's the one where you needed to get him out there to boost that confidence mentally, but physically might not have been the one to put him out there, because he was still getting touched, because your offensive line hasn't lived up to the billing. So to kind of get to your question, Noah, man, I don't know what it's going to take for this team to ultimately throw Michael Van Buren out there and give him a shot. Garrett Nussmeier is your 5th-year senior, the one who stuck around, obviously waited his turn. You're paying him a significant chunk of change from an NIL perspective, so you want to continue to back him on that front. But then on the other shoulder, it's like, okay, because it's twofold, right? On one shoulder, you can say those things, but then on the other shoulder, it's, okay, you're crushing his draft stock. The team is in a bad spot mentally, physically, just organizationally, you're in a bad spot. So you're looking at it at that spot where ultimately you have to do what's best for the organization, and that being LSU. And I'm a New Orleans native. I've said this on the show a couple of different times here, man. I grew up watching Drew Brees. So my comparison here with Garrett Nussmeier and Drew Brees is that throughout the 2010s, watching Drew Brees, towards the back end of his career,
right,
he's playing with a torn rotator cuff. He's playing with this and that. I mean, he's banged up just routinely. But he's been your guy for so long. You're going to ride with Drew Brees, even though you might think Jameis Winston at the time could have given you a little bit more. You're still going to ride with Drew Brees. Here, with LSU in 2025, you're going to ride with Garrett Nussmeier, even if you think Michael Van Buren can give you a little bit more. So it's a challenge. That's the comparison that I've made a couple of different times. I don't know if it's valid, but that's for me where I stand when looking at this quote-unquote quarterback controversy with Garrett Nussmeier dealing with this injury.
And I want to talk about 2 of the bright spots from Saturday. They weren't many, especially on the offensive side of the ball, but two names that stood out to me were Kyle Parker and Carius Kern. I thought both of those guys made the most of their opportunities. Kern obviously finds out he's starting 22 minutes before kickoff and went out there, and obviously he wasn't perfect. He's a true freshman, but he started as a true freshman on the road, and I thought you saw the vision, the potential. He was physical. He was aggressive. And, I mean, there was one play where he put the guy through the dirt. And then Kyle Parker, to me, down the line when Aaron Anderson got hurt and was out, 12 really stepped up and made some plays down the stretch and looked good. What did you see from those 2 guys?
Yeah, I love Kyle Parker. I think first thing first is addressing him as a wide receiver. This is a guy who, to me, was a big-time winner during the offseason. He looked fantastic during fall camp. And obviously, his 2024 season was cut short with that tricep injury, but nonetheless, he's a gamer. And this is one where you can do a lot of different things. He's versatile. You know, you can hit him on long balls when Garrett Nussmeier's healthy. You can hit him in the intermediate routes, the short game, where you can turn it upfield and make plays. I mean, Kyle Parker is a Swiss Army knife of a wide receiver. So I love what he presents, this LSU team, and I'd love to see more of him, of course. I think you nailed it right there. And then getting to Carius Kern, 5-star true freshman. This is one that a lot of people have been waiting to see get on the field. For me personally, I love him at guard. They need him at tackle this year. Put him out there and do anything you can to get him on the field in 2025. We saw that against Ole Miss. And talking to a couple of the guys after the game, even if he's not fundamentally sound and there's still some technical things that he has to work on, the dude is strong as hell. I mean, no matter what, he's going to put guys in the dirt and hold his own. So Carius Kern's a gamer, and this is one who's going to be a big-time piece to the trenches moving forward for LSU, even if it's this year moving to 2026, 27. I mean, this is going to be a staple to your O-line. So I love getting him out there against an SEC opponent in his first start. Throw him in the fire. And I think he held his own. I think if you look at the O-line from top to bottom, it was Tyree Adams' worst game of the year. Interior offensive line has been a struggle all season long. And then you can look on that right side, and I think Karius Kern was the bright spot in the trenches last weekend.
I completely agree. And one of the last questions I'll ask you this morning, and it's kind of a vague, simple question. How important are these 2 weeks for LSU football? The obviously this week with the bye week, and then next week preparing for South Carolina. How important is this, 12 days now stretch for the Tigers?
Yeah, it's arguably the biggest open date of the Brian Kelly era. Yeah. I think a lot of people would say that it's a little bit of a casual take, but you have so many little things organizationally to go out and fix. 12 days might not be enough to do it, but you got to do as much as you can in that time frame nonetheless. So you go out there and you try to see if you need to make some changes in the trenches. Keep Karius Kern in there at O-line. Try to get Garrett Nussmeier rehab and figure out whatever injury this might be and see if we can get him on the right track for South Carolina. Defensively, I love the product that you're putting on the field. If you want to make a change at linebacker and Devon Keys, you want to put him in for West Weeks as a starter, sure. But nonetheless, I've loved what West Weeks has provided for the most part this season. I love what they're doing defensively, but all the questions surround the offense as they should. That's the weak link on this team. You're going to win games by playing complementary football, and they haven't quite done it yet. So it's arguably the biggest open date of the Brian Kelly era. You have, like you said, 12, 13 days to try to get things right here prior to this South Carolina game. I'm excited to see how it unfolds and see if they can get this ship steered in the right direction.
At what point do we just decide that LSU, and I guess under this regime without Jay Daniels to cover it up, why can't you run the football? There's a 3 down front.
Yeah. Right. It's ridiculous, Lloyd. Like, you're sitting here with the 3-man front.
Got 5 on the line last time I checked.
You can't do anything. I mean, watching that in Oxford, to me, that was crazy. I think everybody was saying that, though. I think anybody watching that game was just mind blown at the fact that they just couldn't get any push up front. Garrett Nussmeier still having to scramble, roll out, take hits with a 3-man front. I mean, what's it going to take to try to make more changes up there? And I know you're dealing with a ton of injuries, but, man, it's a tough watch. And there's reasons why Brad Davis gets paid the big bucks. Other people over there in that football ops building get paid the big bucks, and it's not me on that staff. But there has to be some type of change. And I think over these next, let's say, however many days it is, no, I think you said 12, no matter what it is, change is going to happen now, or else you're going to be in for a long 7-game stretch to close out this year.
Because, I mean, not to harp on it, but you had 4 guys drafted last year, so the NFL saw something in these offensive linemen that clearly they feel like they could fix or could utilize as opposed to what LSU was able to do. And now you have another offensive line where it's all 5-star guys, and you can't figure it out.
It's crazy. I mean, from a run blocking perspective last year, I mean, that was a really hard watch, watching that last year. And it's a schematic issue is what one would be led to believe based off of what you said, where they went out and had guys get drafted. I mean, obviously, organizations saw potential. Pass pro, they were elite last year. I mean, they were elite last year, in my opinion. And to me, I don't know if it's a schematic issue when it comes to the run game, which is why you can't do these things. You're recruiting at a high level again, Lloyd, like you said. You're bringing in blue chippers, 4 stars, high 4 stars, 5 stars, etc. But they're just not developing. So at what point do you kind of try to flip the page and maybe make a change on that front? Who knows? But nonetheless, man, it's been brutal to watch the development of this offensive line over the last couple of years because, like you said, you had Jaden Daniels in 2023 to cover it up. But now you don't have a dual threat guy to kind of cover up these miscues in the trenches. And it's really a glaring issue right now in 2025.
Well, Zach, we appreciate you, and hopefully we can talk some more soon down the line. It'll be a little more positive, but we appreciate you joining us this morning and all the great work.
For sure, my guys. I appreciate y'all. You have a good week, and hopefully enjoy the bye week, and we'll get to South Carolina next week and try to get this thing steered in the right direction.
Going to Blue Bayou.
We'll talk again soon.
Appreciate you, buddy.
Later, guys.